Chào tất cả các bạn đã quay trở lại với kênh YouTube của mình. Video ngày hôm nay của mình sẽ là video gì đây?
You come out on the winning side. He's EJ Manuel. He's back with us on SportsCenter, and it's time to open up EJ's manual. Only this time, you're putting a QB in the spotlight for something they just did, and not what you expect them to do. So, what stood out to you about what Will Howard did to Texas?
Rất chi là quen thuộc. Đồ dùng.
Well, Randy, the biggest thing was there was aggression from Will Howard, but there was also a lot of patience. The reason I say patience, when you have a lot of zone coverage, which is really the way that Texas defense wanted to try to control Jeremiah Smith, you have to be patient, but you also got to be on time. So this first play right here, you're going to see the motion, you bring in G. Scott, and I love the read right here because you got a drop defender, fire zone blitz, so you got it from the field, and you got a defensive end right over here. You got to get this ball over the DN's hands. Will Howard's delivering right because this is real lucky, but it gets there to the receiver, Carnell Tate. And again, when you got zone, you have to be patient and take what the defense gives you. Right here, too high shell, all right? They're dropping 8 again. Actually, this is just 7. So again, you have to be patient and watch Will Howard negotiate with his shoulders and with his eyes. He's going to move this linebacker to his right to open up the zone on the other side to Emeka Egbuka. And I love the accuracy right there. You put the ball on the heart of Egbuka. He can cover himself up, protect himself, and take that hit. Now we got the drop 8. Okay, so this is where you got to be really patient. I love the ability to sit back in the pocket. You only got 3 rushers. But again, the ability to be patient, but also still be aggressive. You're going to give a quick pump to your left, and then you got to have the trust to bang G. Scott in this hole. He's not open right now, Randy, but boom, he puts it in a spot where G. Scott can run through that zone. He catches it, able to, again, cover himself up and then protect himself. Game on the line. It's tied up, 4th quarter, 4th and 2. Who does Chip Kelly want to put the ball's hands? He wants to give it to Will Howard, and I love this play call. And then you got the roar from the turf Mustang right there, and I'm not mad about it because all we needed was a first down to move the chain. So the biggest thing I love from Will Howard, yes, he did have an interception, but he was accurate, he was patient, and he was still aggressive. And I know Jeremiah Smith didn't catch a lot of footballs, but this is a anybody can get it kind of offense. So if it's not Jeremiah Smith's day, if it's Carnell Tate's day, if it's Emeka Egbuka's day, ultimately it was Will Howard's day, and he's a huge reason why Ohio State won this football game.
And that impressive stat line could have been even better had there not been that drop touchdown pass right there on that first drive. Instead, they ended up running that football in. Okay, so it's Ohio State against Notre Dame in the final. That means we have a Jeremiah showdown. You have wideout Jeremiah Smith there for the Buckeyes, and you have Jeremiah Love for Notre Dame. So which Jeremiah is going to be more important with a national title on the line?
Yeah, if you want to look at this specific game, it's going to be Jeremiah Love of Notre Dame. He's going to be more important. The big reason is because they run the football. And you know Riley Leonard's going to have at least 10 to 15 carries throughout this game. But you have to have a running back like Jeremiah Love healthy enough to still respect the running back run game. Now, Jadarian Price is a good back as well, but, you know, like I said with this Cotton Bowl we just saw, Jeremiah Smith only had 1 catch throughout this game. It really didn't matter. Ohio State was able to still get production. So Jeremiah Love, hopefully he continues to get a little bit healthier, but he is going to have to take the edge off from Riley Leonard to help him in this run game. And you go back to the Indiana game, the 98-yard explosive touchdown. If he can do those types of things against Ohio State, they'll have a better chance to win this ball game.
In about 10 days to get even healthier there for Love. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Monday, January 20th on ESPN. EJ Manuel, we appreciate it.
The Texans won their division. The Chargers won more games. And it's LA who are favorites going into today's playoff opening game in Houston. The Texans, they've lost 2 of their final 3 regular season games. Those 2 losses by the Chiefs and the Ravens in a 5-day span. Meanwhile, the Bolts haven't won a playoff game since 2018, dealing with much more than just game planning this week. Let's huddle up.
It was a dystopian-like scene at Chargers practice Thursday as the sky was burnt orange from fires that have ravaged California, and players wore masks and ash flew through the skies during practice. The Chargers don't have an indoor practice facility, but Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh altered practice so players would spend a limited time outside, the offense would practice briefly, and then the defense would come out later. No players were impacted by the fires in Southern California, but wide receivers coach Sanjay Lal, who has a home in Calabasas, dealt with power outages. Still, the Chargers say they're focused on the Houston Texans and they're not worried about how the fires will impact their game plan. I spoke with outside linebacker Bud Dupree, who's been in the playoffs 8 times, and Dupree told me that the playoffs isn't about who's better, but it's about who wants it more. We'll see how that goes on Saturday for the Chargers.
Texans have heard some of the naysayers as they prepare for the playoff matchup against the Los Angeles Chargers. They entered as a 3-point underdog. Quarterback C.J. Stroud enjoys being in this position. He said, "I kind of like being an underdog. I've been in my entire life, so I'm comfortable in this position." Some Texan players heard the comments that Rex Ryan made, saying that the Chargers are basically getting a bye when they play the Texans. When running back Joe Mixon was asked about it, he took the high road, but looked around, laughed, smiled before saying, "I'm just here to let my helmet and my shoulder pads do the talking." But one Texan player told me, "I can't wait to shut these people up." As the Texans get ready for the playoff matchup, they'll have a prime opportunity to prove the doubters wrong.
All right, so Stroud relishing the role of underdog today, even at home. Keep in mind, though, no team had a better record against the spread than the Chargers this season. Last year, however, both home underdogs in wildcard games, they won straight up.
Gary talked about it earlier in the show. We got a Saturday night playoff nightcap, and it's sending either the Steelers or the Ravens through to the divisional round. Those two AFC North rivals are going to have handshakes, and then they're just going to knock helmets in Baltimore tonight. First team All-Pro quarterback Lamar Jackson putting both his playoff and Pittsburgh struggles on the line against Russell Wilson and the Steelers offense that hasn't scored 20 points in a month. We have both teams covered, starting with Brooke Pryor and the Steelers.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are ready to burn the boats. That's what offensive coordinator Arthur Smith said earlier this week about getting his offense going against the Ravens. He said he's willing to do whatever it takes, when appropriate, to get this offense off to a better start. This team has not scored a touchdown on an opening drive all season, one of just 3 teams to do that in the NFL this year, and they're averaging just 14 points over the 4-game losing streak. Perhaps that could mean seeing a little bit more Justin Fields, who is healthy after an abdominal injury against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the defense this week has had a lot of energy in practice. They started out with a mosh pit on Tuesday, but I didn't see the same thing from the offense. So I asked wide receiver Calvin Austin how they were going to bring the energy, and he said, "We get our energy through execution."
Lamar Jackson will be without his #1 target in wide receiver Zay Flowers, who was ruled out of the wild card game with a knee injury. So how will Baltimore replace that void in its passing game? Ravens coach John Harbaugh told me it will take a group effort. Harbaugh said they have a lot of weapons, and it will be up to Lamar to distribute the ball as he sees fit. Jackson is coming off the best statistical season of his career, but he is 2-4 in the postseason with 6 interceptions and 3 lost fumbles. When I asked Jackson what he's learned the most about his postseason disappointment, he summed it up this way: you have to play mistake-free. The game is won on the turnover battle.
You heard Jameson reference Lamar's playoff struggles, and over the course of his career, Jackson's numbers have steeply declined in the playoffs, at least compared to the regular season. He also has a 39 total QBR in his career against the Steelers, his worst against any team that he started multiple games against.
Plenty more SportsCenter on the way. We open up the Fowler files on some key NFL injuries. Will the Eagles have their big wideout ready to go against the Pack?
Your life is pretty smart, but when it's time to eat, suddenly you feel out of sync. Refresh your routine with Factor. Chef-prepared meals delivered with a tap, ready in 2 minutes. Imagine dinner on autopilot and enjoying Tuscan tomato chicken without lifting a finger. Upgrade your plate. Optimize your nutrition. Eat smart with Factor.
What took you so long? I'm sorry. There was a long line at the Thai place.
You get the sauce I like?
Of course.
You're the man.
I wish.
The future isn't scary. Not investing in it is. NASDAQ 100 Innovators, 1 ETF. Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more. Prospectus at Invesco.com. Every generation is known for something.
We perfected avocado toast.
Free love and cheap houses.
Short attention spans.
What was the question?
And this year, Generation Beta arrives. A generation that could live longer than ever. That's why Prudential